Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here's a look at some of the stories we have lined up for you tonight. Municipal election ballots being counted in Alberta, and Calgarians make their voices heard as Jyoti Gondek loses her mayoral seat. Plus, the federal Auditor General says Canadian soldiers living in quarters without running water and functioning toilets. And for the first time in 32 years, the Toronto Blue Jays are off to the World Series.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks for joining us. Vote counting continued Tuesday after Albertans cast their ballots in Monday's municipal elections. There will be new mayors in both of the province's largest cities. In Edmonton, Amarjeet Sohi did not run for re-election. Councillor Andrew Knack has beaten out fellow councillor Tim Cartmel for the mayor's chair with a gap of about 10,000 votes. Cartmel conceded earlier this afternoon. And in Calgary, voters have said farewell to their one-and-done mayor, Jyoti Gondek. She finished third behind councillors Jeremy Farkas and Sonia Sharp. According to unofficial results, Farkas edged out Sharp by less than a percentage point. Farkas received just over 91,000 votes, while Sharp received 90,480. Because of the narrow margin of victory, Sharp is eligible to apply for a recount. Evan Spencer is a former Calgary councillor who chose not to seek re-election. He says the results are not a surprise considering some of the issues outgoing Mayor Gondek waded into.
I can remember in that first year, choosing to weigh in on the bill. I believe it's 21 issues in Quebec, and all of that, I believe, snowballed and just kind of issue over issue created a larger storm for her and a great deal of opposition that she had to wade through. Then you add into the fact that she started to look and feel like a very unpopular federal government, and the comparison started to be drawn there. That's just cracking the surface, obviously, right? It was a very difficult term, and she was at the helm for it. I think for Farkas, he's always been good at going after felt needs within the community. I remember early on he was talking about parks as the development concerns within the city were front and center, and people were lamenting the loss of green space in the city. I remember him talking an awful lot about affordable housing and having a lot to say about that. I'd say from a variety of perspectives, he has just been good at capitalizing on the conversation of the moment. But when you take a step back, I think what he's ultimately offering Calgarians is a long-form conversation.
Plenty of unofficial results have been revealed in municipal elections in Lethbridge and surrounding communities. Beginning in some nearby towns, incumbent mayor for Coaldale, Jack Van Ryn, is expected to win 63% of the vote so far. In Fort Macleod, Brent Fader was the lone candidate for mayor, so he wins by default. Deb Florence is projected to become Colehurst's mayor with about 45% of the vote. In Taber, Andrew Prokop is expected to be re-elected with a 53% favorable vote. And in the municipality of Crowsnest, past 1,500 voters, a whopping 76% of the total turnout has voted in Patricia Ann Ripien as mayor. As for what we do know of Lethbridge, the mayoral race seems to be a close race between incumbent Blaine Higgin and just over 5,000 votes, and then Ryan Meny with 4,500. This is out of 13 reported polls out of 20, and over 17,000 people, just less than 20% of eligible Lethbridge voters casted their ballots as of Election Day. All municipal results will become official at noon this Friday. As for the unofficial account of Lethbridge City Council, you can find some of those unofficial results on our X account. There was more bad news Tuesday in Canada's auto industry. General Motors announced it's ending production of its Bright Drop electric delivery van in Ingersoll, Ontario. Federal Industry Minister Melanie Joly says this GM shutdown is different than what happened recently with automaker Stellantis.
When you look at Stellantis had an obligation to bring back the production to the Brampton plant, and they failed that obligation. And so that's why we're putting maximum pressure on the company. And I was on the phone again with Unifor, on the phone with Doug Ford and Vic Fidelli this morning to talk about how we would continue to push. And you'll have more news from me before the end of the day on this. When it comes to GM, they decided to let go their Bright Drop, which was an EV vehicle that was not going well commercially. That's a decision they took. Of course, we'll hold them to account for any support we've given them to develop that model. But at the same time, we are creating a response group to make sure that we're bringing a new model, because 1,200 workers at the Ingersoll plant need to know that we're fighting for their jobs.
GM had already halted production at the Ingersoll plant in April, leaving more than 1,200 unionized workers temporarily laid off. The plant was supposed to restart operations in November. Jolie says a new response group will bring together government and industry representatives to protect manufacturing jobs in Canada. The Federal Auditor General says Indigenous Services Canada is failing to improve long-standing health and infrastructure problems in First Nations communities. Karen Hogan says in a new report today that despite an 84% increase in spending since 2019, the department is struggling to expand access to clean drinking water and emergency services in these communities. She notes how 35 long-term drinking water advisories remain in place, and 9 of them have been active for a decade or more. Hogan says Canada needs to collaborate with First Nations to improve their capacity and advance reconciliation. And a second audit released Tuesday by the Auditor General has found that many living spaces used by Canadian Armed Forces members across 3 bases are in poor physical condition and ripe for overcrowding. Hogan says the bases with the most serious issues are Esquimalt, British Columbia, Gagetown, New Brunswick, and Trenton, Ontario. She says the average age of some of the buildings is 60 years old.
We then looked at buildings that identified that they needed repair. So there was 32 out of 35 of the buildings that needed at least one high priority repair. And so what would that look like? Well, that might mean that that building didn't have safe drinking water. So there was improvements needed to the drinking system. Toilets weren't working, or there was structural damage to the exterior walls of the buildings. The kind of conditions that you and I wouldn't want to live in, and the kind of conditions I don't think we should expect members of our Canadian Armed Forces to live in.
In a separate report, the Auditor General warned the military is not recruiting and training enough members to meet its operational needs. And yet another report from the Auditor General has some criticism for the Canada Revenue Agency. Karen Hogan says CRA call centers offered too many taxpayers bad advice. The Auditor General found that CRA contact centers provided only 5% of callers with quality tax help in June. Hogan says the data gathered in this latest report is more accurate than a previous report in 2017.
The Canada Revenue Agency's phone system allowed recording of calls, which we weren't able to listen to back in 2017. And so that allowed us to really differentiate if you were calling about something really specific about you, that it was chances are you would get a better answer, like over 80% of those answers were accurate. But when you were calling for general information, that's where the accuracy fell to only 17% for personal tax questions and a little bit over 50% if you were calling about businesses or benefits.
Hogan says taxpayers waited an average of 31 minutes to reach a CRA representative by phone. That is more than double the service standard set out by the agency. An attack on a woman last Tuesday in Lethbridge has police reminding residents to take precautions to stay safe. The woman was attacked at Galt Gardens. Fortunately, 2 passers-by intervened. Police are asking any witnesses or anyone with video to come forward. Staff Sergeant Pete Christos from the Lethbridge Police Service says whether you're a victim or a witness, there are things that we can all do to better protect ourselves.
Keep your phone readily available. Don't walk through dark alleys or dark areas in parks and such. If you can, walk with a group of people. It's always best that way. And ultimately, just be aware of your surroundings and trust your instincts. If you feel that there's a risk potentially coming your way, then try and avoid the area. Do not wear your earbuds, and that happens a lot. If you're not comfortable engaging with trying to intervene, then get some details. If there's clothing description of individuals, if there's a car involved, if you can get a plate number. Those details go a great length in helping us in trying to determine who's responsible for those things. It's not a random connection usually. Sometimes it is, but more often not. It's usually the case where these individuals know each other. We have a program here in Lethbridge. It's called The Watch. It's daily from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and the phone number is 715-WALK, so 9255. Then that can happen 7 days a week between those hours, and they can arrange for a safe walk, and we can help those people get to from point A to point B. Obviously, members of the LPS, the sworn members or police officers, they come out, contribute back to our community, making sure that we have people who are safe.
The Nikayuko Japanese Garden has been awarded a multiple honor for their Winter Lights Festival held annually during the holidays. The 2025 Communities in Bloom National International Symposium and Awards held in Stratford, Ontario recognized Nikayuko with a 5 Blooms bronze rating alongside the Outstanding Achievement Award for the Winter Life Award. Nikayuko says utilizing the garden for year-round opportunities and its community engagement helped achieve national recognition.
So the Winter Life Award is very important because it's about having a festival through the winter months for our community. And to do that, it embraces and it gives our community a better quality of life. It gets Nikayuko elevated to that national level. And it also excites the community, and I'm looking forward to the festival growing and the importance of our community engaging and activating the Winter Light Festival, our community through the winter months. I think the elevation of the award is this year when the judges came down and understood that we are taking the garden from a May to October to a year-round destination. I think they see the value in that. The other part that I think that we got high points on is our community engagement and support.
The Winter Lights Festival will celebrate its biggest one yet this year for its 10th anniversary with themes inspired from the northern Japanese province of Hokkaido, a sister province to Alberta. The festival will begin on November 29th and run until next year on February 28th. And they are calling it a Springer Dinger. What a night Monday night was in Toronto.
The Toronto Blue Jays are heading to the World Series for the first time in 32 years. George Springer hit a go-ahead 3-run homer in the 7th inning to lead the Blue Jays to a 4-3 win over Seattle in Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. Jeff Hoffman struck out the side in the 9th inning for the save. Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh homered for the Mariners as Seattle took a 3-1 lead into the 7th. Addison Barger and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa reached base before Springer hit his 4th home run of the postseason. Toronto will host the Los Angeles Dodgers in Game 1 of the World Series on Friday at Rogers Center. The defending champion Dodgers swept the Milwaukee Brewers in the NLCS.
We know they're a great team. I love this. We know they're a great team. And I know we're a great team. You know, built differently. But man, I can't wait to go toe-to-toe with them.
Everybody's here pulling in the same direction. We're all here for one reason, that's to win the World Series. We're one step closer now, and yeah, it's really cool to do it with these guys because these guys have been doing it for so long, and I've looked up to a lot of them for a long time, and it's really cool to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun. You know, I've noticed over being here for 4 years, like how much of a unique situation it is to play one team for an entire country, and you know, you've seen the viewership and how many people we have watching the game, so it definitely fires us up.
And if you were watching the game, then you saw the celebration by the Jays fan who caught George Springer's home run ball. His name is Michael Angeletti.
I was actually texting my cousin, telling him I was front row, about to catch the home run ball to leave me alone. And I dropped the phone, caught the ball, and here we are.
How does it feel knowing that the ball you're holding is essentially the reason why they're going to the World Series?
Feel blessed to be a part of Canadian sports history. I'm a Toronto sport fanatic. I love all our teams, especially the Blue Jays. Wishing them the best in the Fall Classic. Georgie boy, I'm wearing your jersey.
Oh, that was the perfect person to catch it then. Game 1 of the World Series goes Friday night at Rogers Centre in Toronto. It should be exciting, and it might actually be patio weather here on Friday while watching that game. Stubborn price hikes at the grocery store and yearly changes in prices at the pumps largely contributed to Canada's annual inflation rising 0.5 percentage point to 2.4% in September. Stats Canada says gas prices rose somewhat month to month in September, but they were down sharply over the same period last year. Meanwhile, grocery prices rose 4% annually last month. The Bank of Canada is closely looking at this latest inflation data before its interest rate decision next week. While New York is a city of glass and steel, it's also a city of stone. Master stone carver Chris Pelletieri is teaching others the trade he loves and hoping to preserve an art form that has shaped skylines for centuries.
I've never felt like my services were in great demand. And I've been doing this for like 36 years. I think we have to find a way to keep it going even if there is not a great demand. I work with marble, and the portrait bust that I made was in white marble. I work in black slate, which is an excellent material for inscriptions. There's photographs of things in museums or that I found online that were inspiring.
The traditions of stone carving in the U.S. Come from European traditions. So during the late 19th century and early 20th century, a lot of European immigrants came to America and brought those skills with them. And that's why you see a lot of elaborate stone carvings on buildings here in New York City.
You know, it's a little bit of a dying art. And we, as preservationists, are very concerned about what the next generation of stone carvers are going to be, where they will be coming from, and what their skill sets will be, and what type of experience they're going to have, and the information that they're going to be receiving from the current generation.
So I have a lot of time between projects, and that's kind of what got me the courage to say I'm going to start this nonprofit organization to do training and raise awareness and promote stone carving, and hopefully give some other people the same kind of like life purpose and awakening and energy and just joy that stone carving gave me in my life. My strategy is to form partnerships and to find schools, high schools, colleges, elementary schools that want their kids to be exposed to what I have to offer. Yeah, my hope is that 100 years from now, because of what I'm doing, young people still have the awareness and the ability to engage with these kinds of traditions.
Now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 527 to 29,888. The Dow was up 218 to 46,924. The S&P 500 was up 0.22 to 6,735, and the Nasdaq was down 36 to 22,953. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 56 cents to 57.58 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 8 cents to 3.48 US. Gold was down 233.46 to 41.2433 US an ounce, and silver was down 3.69 to 48.64 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.08 per bushel. Barley is at $5.62. Canola is at $13.95, and corn is at $7.29 per bushel. Live cattle are up 182 to 243.67. Feeder cattle were up 2 cents to 372.92, and lean hog December contract was up $1.20 to 83.27. And the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 71.30 US.
Recapping one of our top stories as the ballot counts continue from Monday's Alberta municipal elections. Some races have been decided, particularly in two of the largest cities. Andrew Knack is the new mayor of Edmonton. He beat out fellow councillor Tim Cartmell. And the Calgary mayoral race may go to a recount. Unofficial results show Jeremy Farkas winning the race by less than 600 votes, with votes for Sonia Sharp falling within the 0.5% range that would permit her to apply for a recount. Deadline after deadline has passed, and Canadians continue to wait for Prime Minister Mark Carney to make good on his promise to get Canada a good trade deal with the United States. And now whispers are circulating that it could happen by next week. Brian Lilly, political reporter for the Toronto Sun, will give us his thoughts on this and other national issues coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews.